It says we're live. Brad, how are you this morning?
I'm pretty good this morning. Thank you. Thank you.
It is very foggy today
Yeah,
in
it is.
Seattle.
I can see out my window here. Yeah, I can see my neighbor's house, but yeah, the fog's out there. So
This is Val Campbell and Brad Kranz, and we are broadcasting this morning. See, it just says the Saturday morning show. We
that
are
is me right there, right there.
We are broadcasting from Seattle, Washington,
Mm-hmm.
and the weather has taken a little bit of a fall turn, hasn't it? We the last couple of days has been kind of foggy and
Yes, definitely noticeably cooler at night. I mean, it's cooled down, which I like actually. I like that. So
yeah. And it was a kind of crazy week in the news, wasn't it?
yeah.
I mean, we had debate. We've had all kinds of stuff going on in the United States. All the violence and stuff still continuing, and then President Trump got COVID. Right? He got COVID. So
your post on the debate was spot on. That's the first debate, and if I say that term loosely because sadly it wasn't. It was a punch fest. But the first debate I probably watched. I don't know if I've ever watched a presidential debate. I'm just not that interested. But it was a sad. Trump was bullying. He was just rude when he interrupt people like that. It just. Yeah, I was really disenchanted. I finally got up and left after about hour plus. I just can't take this anymore. It's just nonsense. And Chris Wallace, what a joke! I mean, come on, just
yeah. Well, it was kind
of corporate media people because they're all about and that leading question that he asked about global warming, the typical quote unquote mantra is just like, come on, Chris, you can do better than that. I mean,
well, for those of you who were fortunate enough or not fortunate enough to have read my post on this, I did have a different take than a lot of people did on this. Okay, now, and from my standpoint, my wife was laughing at me because at one point I was literally screaming at the television, and
the TVs don't talk back, Val. You know that, right?
Well. Yeah, that's true. But I was just I get really frustrated with things like that because I do enjoy debating. I enjoy discussing things. And one of the things about a debate, if you know you're going into a debate with someone, and who doesn't know that these days, if you're really active on social media or you're in politics or something like that, you know that you're going to get into debates on subjects. So why are you not prepared? Why do you not have your talking points, your deliveries to the common questions? Why do you not have those prepared? And what really bothered me about that situation were two things. First, that it was obvious that Trump was being baited, both from Chris Wallace and from Joe Biden. You know, the first three exchanges back and forth were pretty level. And then Biden actually started interrupting Trump. And once that happened, Trump was goaded into, breaking his cool, so to speak. And that's my opinion. I mean, you just kind of watch the thing, and then you just could see his switch get flipped, right? And from that point, I felt like he was being defensive. He was scowling a lot and his countenance wasn't good. This is not what you want in a debate. When you're going into that, you want to be the one that's in control. And he kind of let that slip out. But where I took a little bit of a different take on this was, and I haven't really seen anybody else talking about this, which is not unusual because I'm kind of, I'm always the weird one. But I felt like Joe Biden and Chris Wallace were putting baseballs on a tee for him to knock out of the park. Those questions are so easy to answer. They're all of the obvious questions. And people said, well, they were going after Trump. I said, I didn't look at it that way. I thought, like, man, they're putting the easy questions right up there for him to smack them. Mm-hmm. And because he wouldn't let Joe Biden damage himself in the conversation, right? And what I was yelling at was I just said, would you just shut up and let the guy talk? Every time Joe Biden talks, he hurts himself. And he gives you ammunition, and he wouldn't do it. It's not his style. He's not a debater. He's certainly no Ben Shapiro, is he? Ben Shapiro.
I didn't listen to his. I've listened to him a little bit. I have delved more deeply this year into some of the conservative commentators on this, because it is going to be interesting. I guess my take on it, Val, is one, it wasn't really a debate because nobody's really talking about their points. But what I really noticed is Joe Biden doesn't ever talk about what he's going to do. It's always bashing Trump. Trump's responsible for the economy, for COVID, for everything possibly, the riots. Trump started the riots. I mean, on and on and on. And I'm like, what is your plan, Joe? You're not talking about what you're going to do. You're just bashing your opponent, Trump. And in my sense, that's not what a debate should be. You talk about what you're going to do and sell yourself on why people should vote for you, instead of saying, well, my opponent's a scumbag and a liar and yada, yada, yada. It was pretty juvenile. I thought the whole exchange was just a controlled, like, high school.
Well, you saw my comment. I said I felt like I was watching Pee Wee Herman debate Beavis. It was just this weird, I know you are, but what am I kind of a deal. And that's not what I wanted to see. I don't think that's what anybody wanted to see. I'm frustrated that both of these people couldn't control themselves better. Either one of them. I mean, you're
absolutely right. I wasn't impressed with Trump's performance. It was shameful as a president to act that way. I get you don't like Joe, and I think he was trying to outpunch Joe and get him to collapse. But Joe Biden, I'm just, guy, you've been
and on the Biden side, I mean, there were a lot of things that he said that were just, factually not true. The whole discussion about the Green New Deal, where he makes this point of, I am the Democratic Party. He's trying to show this control and leadership. He says, I am the Democratic Party, and that's not my platform. I've got the Joe Biden platform. I've got the Joe Biden plan. Well, if you look at his platform, it clearly right there talks about the Green New Deal as being his platform. So there was a lot of misleading stuff there where he was just not telling the truth. And, there's people who will say the same thing about Trump. But anyway, it was really interesting I thought, from the standpoint, not of how great of a debate it was, but from the things that it exposed and some of the things that were there. And once again, my disappointment that there were things that were thrown out that it was so easy to pick up on. Yeah. The whole thing about Trump's taxes. I don't know how much you followed this, but he's got these two. Yeah. Well, he's got these 2 years of taxes, 16 and 17, I think, whatever, that have finally been released, and he paid $750, each year. And Biden made this push that Trump only paid $750 in taxes. I think most people understand that businesses have deductions, and when you have parts of your business where you're investing a lot of money and things like that, you get tax credits for that. The government encourages you to do that. That's why they put those things in there, is so that you will invest money and then you can write that off. They want you to accelerate some of these things. He actually paid in both of those years $750 more in taxes than he was required to. He wasn't required to pay any tax in those years because of all of these investment tax credits that he had. And yet they chose, I think from a political standpoint, they chose to actually pay a small amount of tax to show that he actually paid tax. And it's not unusual for big businesses to be investing billions of dollars perhaps and not pay taxes of that type. They pay other kind of taxes. And so anyway, I just thought it was really interesting that he didn't point that out and say, I didn't owe any tax in those years by the law. Yeah. And I chose to actually pay some tax. Yeah. But it didn't come out. So anyway, that's not really our subject of today. I just thought, it's kind of nice to kind of recap the week. And of course, then Trump contracted COVID, and you've got all of these people rushing out there saying, "I hope he dies. I hope he dies." It's like, really? What does that accomplish constructively?
I think it's the sad state
You
of
think you want
politics.
to? You think you want to throw this country into that kind of a trauma? No, and it's kind of ridiculous anyway. And I don't know. I was just in the middle of posting the most current CDC statistics for the week and that's why I was a little bit late jumping on. The numbers are so obscenely low. Of the people who actually contract COVID, your probability of survival of the ones who actually get it are 99.727%. If you get sick with COVID, your probability of surviving, unless you have, unless you're dying from something else already, cancers and stuff like that. Yeah. But your probability of surviving COVID, if you're healthy of any age, is very, very nearly 100%.
And if I can backtrack, the point that got me, I did talk to the TV Wednesday or during the day. My wife made me promise, not because I'm a kind of person, and I tell her this all the time. Part of my learning, I can't sit there and listen to something that's wrong or patently stupid without commenting. But when Joe Biden looked at the audience, says, "Who do you know that's died from COVID?" I'm going, "Joe, I don't know anybody. Hello, I don't know anybody."
Yeah. Well,
Sorry.
because I've been deep into it as a kind of a COVID consultant, if you will, a COVID officer, and some of my stuff. I don't personally know anybody who's died from it, but I know I have friends who've had family members who've died. I actively, when I hear of somebody, I actively reach out and say, "Can you tell me what their circumstances were?" Every single one of those circumstances was either somebody who had other diseases already. I mean, they were
strictly COVID related. They got it and they died.
They were on death's path, right? I mean, they had cancer, they had, something else. Or there were a few that were healthcare workers who, for maybe no fault of their own, were not using PPEs properly, and they were in active COVID wards. And there's a fair number of these healthcare workers, especially during that first curve, where understandably, that the virus is going to be most powerful during its first curve. And as it starts to mutate and form, it's a function of viruses. They always get less dangerous. But during that first curve where it was hitting and they didn't have proper PPEs, and oddly enough, you'd think the medical community would use PPEs properly, but they don't. Almost never do they use PPE properly, and it's weird. But you did have some of those early healthcare workers that these were overwhelmed and ended up dying. But those are outliers. They're not the norm, right? That's not the normal population being in a overloaded viral environment. That's not your normal thing. Your normal thing is walking around out there. And I just ran the statistics. If you're a regular person out there walking around, Brad, like you and me, in the United States, your probability, I'm going to pull this up, because the number is so small, that it's hard for me to even say it. Your probability of dying from COVID, if you're just a regular person walking around out there, is 6 out of, I'm trying to come up with this number, like 10,000. It's 0.006055%. So 6,000ths of 1%. I mean, that's infinitesimally small. You literally have a higher probability of dying in a car crash. So
we better panic. No, when I saw this morning, somebody just posted like "Happy Saturday," but it's like, so who's still saying COVID isn't real? And I thought, number one, that's a really stupid post. It's leading. Nobody's denying that COVID doesn't exist, but if you're saying it's the degree that the government is saying, absolutely not. But again, I see these people, Val, go, why are you posting such an irresponsible post? You're not qualifying it, providing any data, or here's where I'm coming from. So who's still denying? Yeah, we got people out in the street corners denying that COVID is out there. No, you've got to define we got to ask the right questions, right? Just when we're talking about global warming and that, what part of the whole problem is nobody's asking the right questions. I think people with COVID, what I've seen find out is the media, and I see even the Wall Street Journal, and it gets me mad, posts the number of new quote unquote COVID cases. How many people are dying? That's what I really want to know. How many people are actually dying from COVID, not because they had something else? And the media's, I will just say, purposely not talking about that. So what they talk about is leading us to believe that COVID's everywhere. Gosh, it's in my cabinet drawer over here. I better run out of my, and
it's preposterous. The numbers are simply compared to what's going on and what people think. The numbers are completely out of line with that. And I guess for those people who want to talk about social distancing and masks and all this kind of stuff, okay, I want to tell you that there's probably no person in the world who's more protected than the president of the United States. Is there? I don't think so. Okay. Everybody around him is like tested daily. They say, well, he didn't wear a mask. He's never in a situation where everybody hasn't been tested. He is in a controlled environment to a very large degree. He flies on his own private airplane. He's got his own private limousine. You think everything isn't being checked and double checked?
Yeah.
And you can't keep that person from contracting a virus? Yeah, you think that running around here with your mask and your whatever, I'm sorry, I'm being really patronizing here, but you think that's going to keep you from contracting the virus? If the most protected person, the most isolated person in the world can't be, secured, it's a virus. It's in the air. It's everywhere. You just can't, think that you're going to wear that mask, and that's what's going to protect you. If you come across it in the right situation, you're going to get it. But even if you get it, your chances are very, very nearly 100%. Unless you're already dying from something else, you're going to survive. Well, that was fun. I like that. Let's take a second and think about the actual subject of the day. Although some of these other subjects, what's in the news, is so compelling to me, and I just can't stay off of them. It's amazing. Good radio, right? Good television.
I'm going to state this because I want to keep stating. People keep worrying about it, and I want to talk about two things. One, I'm 60 years old. I have stage 4 prostate cancer. I have hypertension due to the drugs I'm on. I should be a quote unquote concerned person. I'm not. And what I see, Val, both me and you are Christians. The Bible said God didn't give us a spirit of fear, but one of power and might. And I've even posted this week, we have, and I'll say by we, the government, the media, the CDC, have conditioned people to be living in fear. And I'm going to state this clearly. I refuse to live in fear today, tomorrow, the rest of my life. And that's what I think of this whole situation has got me angry, I guess, or righteously upset, is because we have people literally living in fear about something that statistically, from what you just said, shouldn't be a concern. But we still have this fear mentality for the last 6 months. Has been, I see people driving around their cars with masks on, and it's like, wow.
I see him right in the middle of the floating bridge in Seattle, running or riding a bike, usually running, not bikers so much. And there isn't anybody for a quarter mile in either direction, and they've got a mask on. And I'm thinking, really, what are you? You're outside over the water, over a large body of water on a floating bridge, all by yourself, with traffic going by, which creates air currents blowing stuff all over. Anyway, So the actual subject of today, and I love our current events session there. But the actual subject of today,
this is what we should be afraid of here, Val. Today's topic,
today's topic, which is how do retirees create side income streams? What types of things can they do? How do they do that? Okay. And I was thinking about this. We're the kind of the focal demographic in this conversation is going to be retirees, right?
Okay.
But really, no, I don't care what demographic you're in. If you're looking to create side income, side gigs, however you want to term that, make money from home, whatever the search string is, this process that you and I are going to go through right here, it applies to everybody. You can, the brainstorming. So if you're tuning into this, I hope you don't just say, well, that's just for retirees. No, we're going to go through a brainstorming process of coming up with ideas, and most of these ideas would apply to anybody. Brad, what are you thinking?
Well, let me provide some context here. I'm gonna do a screen share because I pulled up an interesting article this morning. It's from about a year ago, but I wanted to share screen. I'm not even sure what I'm looking at here.
Down at the bottom, I've got multiple things. It says share screen down at the bottom, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Does yours say share?
Yeah.
If not, I've got it here and I can do it too, but just do share screen.
I'm just trying to find out application window. Here we go. Well, I don't know how to share. So
something came up there.
Yeah,
add to the stream.
I don't know how to get my article up, but
just a second. I'm going to pull it up here.
Yeah, the Retirees Guide to Starting, because I think the statistics here lay a basis that we need to.
Now look what I did. Add to stream. Okay, there you go. Can you see it?
Yep, barely. Yeah, I can't even read that. So
if you look down at the bottom corner of the screen, there's a thing to expand. You can expand that to full size.
Oh, there we go. Okay, so I found this was interesting. Okay, because the road to retirement isn't an easy one today. The average couple needs nearly $740,000 to survive in retirement. I'm going to guess that depends where you're living in, et cetera, et cetera. According to America,
in Seattle, that would be per year.
Yeah, that's not a big nest egg, but this was interesting. Households aged 50 to 55 have only saved, rounded up, 125,000. And households aged 56 to 61 are only slightly ahead with 164,000. Okay. But they're saying despite these dismal numbers, the gig economy spells good news for seniors. Okay. And we can stop sharing there, I guess.
So let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go ahead and remove that. Okay, so let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
This article was from June 25th, 2019. So yeah, a little more than a year ago.
Pretty current.
How do you think the economic situation of this last year has impacted everybody along this conversation, but especially seniors and retirees? How do you think this event have maybe changed things from what this article says?
Well, we have a little thing out there, and I wanted to expand on this for a minute or so because the whole thing, I'm not as optimistic as where they're going with this article, and I'll tell you why. Number one, we have a thing called 401k. It came out in 1978. It was originally intended for a place for executives that got significant bonuses to place it so they didn't get taxed on that amount. So it's a section of the tax code, but the 401k was never intended to be a retirement program. Okay, and we got to keep this in mind. That's very little known about that. Second part of that is nothing within a 401k is guaranteed. Absolutely nothing. It's a defined contribution. Your employer may or may not match, but it's up to you to put the money in, but the interest rate's not guaranteed. Nothing about it's guaranteed, but that's in large part where most of us have our retirement nest egg. So fast forward to from 2019 to 2020, we just had this thing. I think we were talking about it, Val, COVID-19, economy collapsing. Yeah. Of course, it's Trump's fault. We got to be clear about that. 401ks went down. They took big dips. I'll say someone went down to about 201k. So if you had 125 to 165,000, that all of a sudden has dipped. The market's gone back up. We're about even to where we were at this point last year. But if your nest egg's only 125,000 and you're 50 or 55 to 60, you're probably not collecting Social Security yet to get a side gig. I'm kind of going at what? Minimum wage? $15 an hour if you're in the U.S. Other places we were looking at places like Boise, Idaho. It's $8 an hour. That's before taxes. So is a side gig alone going to really help you? I mean, they're not being very clear about the tax consequences. And if you're one of those people that has 125,000, maybe now it's down to 70 or 80, you're going to go get
let's talk definitions for a minute, because I'm confused about what you said. So you, in your comment there, you're talking about a side gig. You're thinking about working at the big box store or something like that, or being a greeter at Joe Mart or something, right?
Yeah, I'm just pointing out from what they're proposing to go get these other jobs, what are you going to get for as a job? And if your 401k has been significantly reduced, is that income there really going to help you out?
But what I'm reading here, not to bust your chops or anything, but what I'm reading here is that this article's not talking about getting a second job, because it says you've built a wealth of knowledge with all those years in the workforce, so why not put it to good use? Side hustles are available for nearly every industry and skill level. So they're really not talking about going and getting a Joe Mart job. They're talking about develop something you own, develop a
I'm
based
with
on
you
your
on that, Val, but I didn't see that's what they're saying. I'm just still kind of going, yeah, is every side gig equal? No. So go ahead. But I'm just trying to lay, I guess, the worst case scenario, saying I'm not sure if some of these quote unquote side gigs you're going to bring in the kind of money you need if you have a small nest egg. So let's go ahead and continue. I'm just kind of trying to.
That's okay. This is an amazing article, and we'll post the link to this, by the way.
Yeah, I thought it was a good article, but I'm just going.
What it says here is, it says, despite needing gig employment. In other words, now you're retired.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now you're retired. You're still going to need a gig. You're still going to need employment. Mm-hmm. Is the way this article is looking at this. Not this. I'm not saying I agree with this. The article, right. But it says, despite needing employment to make ends meet in retirement, mm-hmm. only 32% say they are struggling financially. So they're talking about employment. So you've got Social Security, whatever retirement you got. You're talking about a job. Now they're talking about, in addition to this, take up your place in the side hustling market.
Yeah.
And this is where you and I have a passion, right? It's this idea of a side hustle, not another job, not delivering pizzas, not mm-hmm. being a greeter, not whatever. Nothing wrong right. with that. Not saying anything derogatory right. about those things. Right. But the idea of developing a side hustle, something you're doing on your own that you're creating from mm-hmm. skills or interest levels, right?
Yep.
So let's talk a little bit about that. Why would somebody who's a retiree, or, I mean, it could be anybody, it could be a mom, it could be somebody who's employed right now who's looking for a side mm-hmm. gig, but specific to retirees, mm-hmm. why would a retiree want to set up some kind of a side gig, a small business, internet-based maybe, or whatever? Mm-hmm. Why would they want to do that?
Well, let's be realistic, depending on what your nest egg is. And, I will talk from personal experience and from my own study and research. Most financial planners will say, based on whatever it is, whether it's 750,000 or $1 million, whatever, if you're taking out 4%, and I've done the numbers on this, Val, if you're taking out 4%, that might be a little bit too much. I've heard people say you're probably going to need to be closer to 3% if you're trying to live off that nest egg. Unless there's another hit in the economy. But let's say 4% off $1 million is what, 40,000? Mm-hmm. And let's assume you get Social Security, maybe $1,200, $1,500 a year. I did some numbers for myself. I said that would put me at about $55,000 a year before taxes. That's not a lot of money. It's really not a lot of money. And I tend to be looking.
So I don't know what the normal Social Security is right now, but if you plan it right and structure it right, I want to say it's somewhere around $2,500 a month, right? Well, it depends on what your income levels were, but $2,000,
right. I'm being conservative, but still, when you look at that, if you're taking 4% of $1 million nest egg, and you're getting Social Security, you're still taxed on that. And how long is that gonna? hold out. I'm thinking you probably would be smart to have some additional income coming in to bolster that, because here's an interesting thing. Wealth's what you've got, what you've saved. Riches, and I'm just reading a real interesting book on the psychology of money, which is a really interesting book. Riches is what you're bringing in. So I think you still need a significant income to stay up. And I'll just say, ahead of the curve, because we don't know what's going to happen in the economy. If we get another tanking like COVID-19, that's going to play with, depending on what most people have. I think it's the point I'm making here is, I think, to be safe, to hedge your situation, you need to have another side income coming in.
Well, and so let's just develop that a little bit. First off, I think there's a number of phenomena that retirees face or that they show an interest in. So we know that there is a tendency for retirees to try and move from the major cities that they're in, like a Seattle. We live in Seattle. Unless you've got an awful lot of money, you do not want Seattle to be your primary residential place, or the East Side. You don't want Manhattan to be your primary. You don't want San Francisco. Many places in Los Angeles, the cost of living is just too high there. You're going to struggle with that for most people in retirement. So you're looking at retirement people moving to Arizona, moving to different places, Florida, Idaho, Boise, Montana, places where the cost of living is lower. But one of the things with a side hustle, and we're going to get into what are side hustles in a minute, but one of the things about that is that you're leaving a major market where there's lots of people, frequently moving into Wenatchee, Washington, which is a small, more agricultural community. There's not as many potential opportunities to market your side gig, nor are you as well known in that community. Okay, so when people are thinking about a side gig, this is one of the things that's attractive about web-based side hustles. The idea that you don't have to be the expert in the community necessarily. You're marketing to a more large base, the whole country potentially.
Yeah.
And you can structure it that way. So that's one aspect of this that I think is really important to retirees, especially. They're a unique class of people looking to set up side hustles. So this idea that maybe you are an expert in construction in some way, you can actually go set up a side gig on the internet and market that and do construction consulting and things like that. There are people who will pay you for your advice based on the fact that you've been in, Brad, in your case, sales. You've been in sales for decades. You have leadership. You are a world-class leadership expert. You've studied this for years. You have these skill sets. So no matter where you are online, you can market those. Okay, so that's one aspect of this.
Okay.
There's another aspect. One of the industries that we've seen explode during this COVID event is the RV industry. It is to the wall. They can't make them fast enough to sell them. Couple of reasons for that. First off, they're not going to jump on an airplane and fly around. They want to take some vacations. They want to do some things. So they've looked at this and they've thought, let's buy an RV, right? There's another part of this that I think is a big driver. Retirees who looked at this situation, they found themselves unemployed. They found themselves retired. Now they've got to make a decision. How are we going to navigate this situation? We're years ahead, probably. We thought we could work another 5-6 years until we were 68 or 69 years old. Now we're 64, and all of a sudden, the restaurant I worked at, or whatever I did, it's closed. The movie theater, the whatever, it's closed. Now I'm out in the market competing at 64 years old. I'm out competing with 24-year-olds coming out of college. I'm not very competitive in that environment, even though I've got way more experience. That dynamic, I'm not as competitive. So a lot of these people are saying, I guess I'm going to retire or partly retire. and they're sitting on a home. Home sales are still pretty high, especially in the suburbs, because people are looking to move out of the cities into the suburbs. They don't want to be in Seattle. A lot of people do not want to be in Seattle right now. Yeah, it's a mess. Boeing doesn't want to be in Seattle. No, the Amazon moved.
Thanks,
Amazon
Jay.
moved. Yeah, thanks, Jay. Thanks, whoever that woman. I don't live in Seattle proper, so whoever the mayor and Sawarma Sawat or whatever her name is, the city council, they've destroyed that city. Amazon moved 40,000 people. They took out more than 1 million square feet of office space right across Lake Washington in Bellevue and moved. They just like that, snapped their fingers and said, okay, 40,000 people, you're going to work from home. You're moving. We're going to Bellevue. Figure it out. And
thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So yeah, it's incredible. It's like the Seattle government in Washington state government, the gift that keeps on giving to everybody else. So here's the deal. RVs. Now you've got an RV. Perhaps you look at selling your house, establishing some kind of a smaller residence in I don't know, South Dakota, because the tax structure is really good. That becomes your domicile. Yeah, you don't necessarily live there. Your RV's registered there. You got a 40-foot RV, or you've got a small house. I got a buddy that's a retired architect. He has a very small house in Arizona. He's up here a lot, right? So a lot of these people will buy an RV. They're going to spend time up here with their family and stuff like that in wintertime. They're going to, unhook and head south. Now, if you've got a side gig, now I want to make sure everybody knows we're not accountants. Brad and I aren't accountants. We're not tax advisors, but we've lived life in the business world, and we have a lot of experience on how these things work. If you've got an RV, if you have, you've learned some tax lessons in the last couple of years, haven't you? I have too.
Oh yeah.
But if you've got an RV, how about if you create a situation where you can write that off? You can travel right off your travel expenses, write that off, because you now have an internet-based business, and you might even have the opportunity to travel to some of these places and interact with your consulting clients or your whatever. But no matter where you are, you've got the ability. Your residence now is mobile, and you can create legitimate tax deductions to write off your living expenses, convert those living expenses to business expenses legitimately as appropriate. Consult with your tax advisor. But I know a lot of people that are doing this. So a side gig becomes more than just the dollars you make in your side gig, which can be good. It also becomes a way of protecting your retirement income asset.
Right, because you have deductions. The average person, we've talked about this multiple times. If you're not self-employed, if you don't have a business, you really cannot take advantage of the tax system, especially as it's set up if you're an employee. That's why I was being so down on just having a quote unquote side gig, because you just have another job. You really can't deduct anything with that, and that income's fully taxable. So a side gig, aside from the fact, and the other point that article did make, Val, which I'm going to insert here, is the power of social media. I didn't think they did it justice, but I'm going to say something that Gary Vaynerchuk has said, and he says if you're not using social media now in 2020, you're irrelevant. And he's 100% right, like it or not. The internet's there; it's at its peak, and I shun all these articles that slam the negativity of it. They're watching us and tracking us. I don't care. I'm looking at it from a business standpoint. How about if you look at it from a business standpoint, what you can do? It's amazing. I mean, we just brought in a new person that watched a video that we shot on YouTube, signed up from New Jersey. We've had a few Zoom meetings, and the guy's sharp and excited. He found me. Is that powerful or what? How much money did I spend to market that? I did 6 videos with a business partner and 1 with you, Val. So I'm just saying social media is underrated as a medium to get out there and reach people. But again, back to your point, having a business, if you want to do an RV, great. Now you can deduct some of these things, and you don't take the full burden of the tax rate wherever it is you might live. So.
Well, I want to point out something here that's in this article, and I want to update this a little bit.
Okay.
It says if you're interested in ongoing freelance work that utilizes your professional chops, these sites can connect you with reputable sources. And there's a list of some job sites here. These are mostly social media sites. There are also service micro job sites like Fiverr and TaskRabbit and Amazon Delivery and things like that. But I want to throw, and I remember this is about a year old, and there are some new sites that have come on that are hugely helpful with this. Or let's say, because they're new sites, will be within the next couple of years, these are going to be some of the focal points, and jewelbook.com is one of those. And just so you know, I'm very excited about jewelbook.com and what that promises to be. But that's another place where people can market skill sets. They can market skill sets and connect with people who are willing to pay them for those. So let's talk about some of these skill sets. What are some of the kinds of things that retirees or non-retirees, even if you just want to set up a second gig, a side gig, you can start putting money from your side gig away into your retirement. You can build that part of your business up. And there's a lot of things you can do with that. And I'm throwing some ideas out here. Like you can create videos and video books, vlogs and things like that, and actually sell those. You can sell content like that. Courses, and so you make it. Yeah, you make it once.
Go ahead.
What's that? You make the content
summit last week. And the big focus of them was about how to market, and it wasn't particularly me, but how to market your courses. You can set up courses and market them online from your expertise.
And speaking of jewelbook.com, Jewelbook is specifically set up. There's a part of Jewelbook that's specifically set up to allow people to market course content in books, online books and things like that. So there is a whole world of things out there. Let's say somebody is a subject matter expert and they want to let's just, because I spent a life in the construction industry. Let's say that you've got a construction background, but it can be anything but construction. You can literally sit down, if you enjoy writing, you can sit down and write content about the process of remodeling your home or something like that. And you can literally market that and sell it, or you can do webinars like this. I mean, there's so many things you can do. You can have people book your time and pay for your time up front on a credit card or whatever. And then you have your time reserved in a calendar, and you just pop out and say, oh, I've got a webinar today with Mary for an hour, who's in New Jersey. I'm in Seattle. Mary's in New Jersey. They're getting ready to remodel their house, and they want somebody to walk through this process and give them advice. And they're going to pay me $100 for an hour. And so there's all of these different ways that people can use social media and websites and to develop side gigs based on their skill sets and experience. But let's talk about some of those. So we talked about construction, right? So if you've got a construction background, there are, I don't know, millions of people out there building and remodeling and doing things in their kitchen. A lot of them want to be do-it-yourselfers. They want to try and save a couple of bucks and do it themselves, but they don't know exactly how to do that. That's not their skill set. So they would be way money ahead if they're going to do it themselves to pay somebody a couple $100 to walk them through the process and lay it all out so that they don't have that learning curve. People in construction can do that. But think about all of the other areas that same idea applies to. They could be quilters. They could be wanting to learn how to sew. They can be, one of my big things that I think there should be way more people doing is actually online cooking classes. How many people are cooking from home right now? Lot. They're not, and how many people are not going to the theaters and things like that for entertainment? They're turning to home. I just heard a thing the other day. There is a serious discussion right now. The entire theater industry might be dead. It might be gone. And in the not too distant future, we're going to be telling our grandkids, hey, we used to go to these buildings and everybody'd sit in this building and watch a movie, and they're going to be going, what? This is going to be like rotary dial telephones. They're going to say, really? Well, don't you just watch it stream it on your device or whatever? I mean,
Well, you
no,
do like me, you put in a Clips 7.2 home theater. It's awesome. I don't have to worry about that. I'm not going to any more concerts. I can do them at my house. And I'm serious. We're having some friends over tomorrow. Going to watch Furious 7. I got it on Blu-ray. But in the comfort of your own home, man.
yeah, yeah.
Now,
And
the point I want to make about all this, because with the COVID-19 shutdown, the work from home, I really see that stuff like this is interactive stuff, whether it's cooking classes or whatever. You've got to be a part of it. We're part of a paradigm shift here with what's going on. I really believe that this is how the future is going to be.
well,
Right?
and people are tending to talk about the negative side of that. And one of the things you and I always do is try and talk about the opportunities. Here, somebody says, oh my gosh, the restaurant industry's down. We've lost millions of restaurants. I'm in the restaurant industry. Well, how about starting your own cooking classes online? How about taking advantage of this shift and putting yourself in this great position so you could come out, if let's say cooking is something you enjoy, you can do some research, you can come out and publish your ingredients list and say, okay, 2 weeks from now, we're going to be doing pad thai or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And if you're from the Philippines, lumpia. 2 weeks from now, we're going to be doing lumpia. So here's your ingredients. Get those ingredients and have them ready. And then at this time, you're going to want to plug into wherever jewelbook.com. I'm pretty excited about and plug into that and reserve your time. Get there, get your links and everything, and then you come up and you've got everything prepared right there, and you're streaming online, and you now have the ability. And think about this: if you were doing classes someplace and you had 20 people, that would be a lot of people in a class. But as you get your business built up nationally, you could end up with hundreds of people attending your class and maybe paying $20 a pop.
Hey, when we got our new Blackstone griddle, and I got to say, I love it. I think it's honestly, I love to cook, but I love it now. I think that's taking my cooking to a whole new level because I got an actual griddle that has sides. But we watched videos about guys how to set it up and stuff they were cooking that I learned, and I'm like, that's like freaking cool on YouTube. These guys got all kinds of videos on how to cook on this thing. But yeah, what if you took that, because it changes your food. We're going to do some halibut tomorrow night with our friends, but yeah, doing cooking classes and having that set up, you're going to get people jazzed because they're going to go, wow. I mean, that griddle, Val, is $274, not expensive, but it's one, I'll say it's one of the same. Sorry, I'm doing an advertisement for Blackstone 28-inch Pro.
Yeah,
Pro
so everybody knows, Brad makes money from Gary Vaynerchuk and from Blackstone Grill. He's got he doesn't. As much as he promotes them, he should be getting money from them.
I know, but it's one about the single most best investments I made. I mean, I love it. Cooking on that thing is like awesome. But yeah, if you did videos, and some of these people have done some pretty good ones, it's like, wow, these guys know what they're doing. But yeah, you could market that. If you're a chef with passion, you got the right setup. Yeah, I'd like to learn how to do whatever recipes on this thing I bought. And I think a lot of other people would too.
Let's analyze this for a minute. Okay, let's think about this. We're talking about setting up some kind of a side gig. We're talking about thinking about how to take advantage of a mega trend. Now, for the cost of $275, you can buy this grill. And I'm gonna move here and I'm gonna grab something, okay, so people can see.
You got it.
Now, I wasn't really prepared for this. I don't know if everybody can see this. This is a tripod. Okay, this is a mic stand. Not expensive. This is an inexpensive mic stand, right? And what I've got on the head of this, I've got a head that holds a camera, that'll hold a phone, holds a device. You could use this with your iPhone, with your Android device. You can stream your videos using devices like StreamYard, sites like StreamYard or Zoom. Now what you've done is you've created a legitimate tax write-off for your Blackstone grill Just this is one example. Your Blackstone grill, your iPhone, your mic stand, and your head adapter, and your internet service, and the cost of whatever platform like jewelbook.com that you're using to manage the business side and the payments and the calendar for your events, and you have created legitimate tax write-offs for all of those things in your life. And for a relatively small cost, you have started a business that has the potential of making thousands of dollars per week as you get it built up for a cost of, let's say you've already got a phone. Most people do. But let's say for a cost of less than $1,000 to start a business. You can write off parts of your home. You can write off your food and your ingredients list. I mean, there's so many different things that you can write off here if you're keeping track of your expenses. And that's a pretty small investment, if you want to call it that, to start a business. And every part of it is a tax write-off. There is no part of that you need to depreciate over an extended period of time. It's an immediate tax write-off.
No, most of the tech stuff, the microphone, I've got a softbox light now, which really helps with the light, the HD camera. It's pretty cheap, so you don't have to spend an arm and a leg, but you can do good video quality. And if you know what you're doing, it's just getting your message. You could use Instagram. I just jumped on Instagram here a few weeks ago. I'm learning that and using that now as a platform. But if you put out good content, Val, here's the thing, and you know this, I know this, if you put out good content, you will get people's attention.
Well, absolutely. And you do have to learn a little bit about how to create titles and some of those things. But again, you and I actually have videos and content out about that on our platforms, and many people do. So this is not you don't have to be one of the wizards to be able to figure this stuff out. This is really, really simple stuff in this day and age. And by the way, let's say you're a retiree, back to our subject, and you feel like you have some technical, some lack of technical skills in these areas. Can I just tell you, all you've got to do is put a message out there on Facebook that you're looking for some high school kid or something like that to help walk through these things, and you'll pay him $50 or something like that. And these young people, every 14, 15-year-old kid knows how to do this stuff. This is not difficult, so it's easy to get those skill sets.
But there's other stuff. I'll tell you real quick. I mean, just taking advantage of resources. You have to be resourceful. I think you have to have a certain amount of ability to read or research to learn on your own. But this Teachable Summit I went to last week, a week before, was through some of my Facebook feed. Gary Vaynerchuk was a featured speaker on Thursday for half an hour Q&A. That got my attention. But guess what? I sat in on a gal who's a global Instagram strategist for half an hour. I learned a ton. I took 4 pages of notes on that. I'm starting to utilize that. Guess what? I'm shooting 3 videos off the content I learned there about social media. Another gal did a half-hour thing about how to shoot videos. Nothing real in depth, or you don't need much more than what we've got, but just basic stuff. And it cost me $29, Val. Each of these sessions would have been a bargain at $29. I didn't sit in the whole 3 days, but 5 different sessions for $29. Again, tax write-off. But the information's out there. If you're resourceful, you can find people that are experts that'll walk you through this stuff. And then it's a matter of taking it and applying it. But it's amazing. Could we have done this 10 years ago? No. I mean,
let's put some numbers on that so people understand what we're talking about. And let's put it in terms of, let's say you're sitting and watching this. Think about yourself. Think about what you just said, $29, and you went online and you paid $29 to register for this thing, and you had potentially days of different modules. So how many people, what do you think, how many people do you think, maybe they said, how many people attended that for $29?
I'm trying to remember the feed there was several thousand people. This was worldwide. I mean, the comments there, you watch the chat, there's people from literally all over the world attending these. So I'm going to say thousands of people sat in
So
on
let's
this.
say there were 3,000 people at $29. That's roughly $90,000.
Probably more than that. I'm going to guess it was way more than that. But there was people from all over the world.
Just as an example, let's say that you're sitting and you're watching this and you're thinking about building up a little business and you're thinking, gee, who would be interested in watching me grill from my Blackstone? We're just using one if you don't feel like you've got a talent or a skill, you can create one. You can get your grill. You can go learn how to use your grill. You can now, and it could be anything. It could be any kind of a tool. All right. But we just picked that one because you happen to have one.
Yep.
And you can learn how to do it, and you can create a brand new skill set for yourself. You don't even need to be an expert. You can study up on it week by week by week. And as long as you're 2 weeks ahead of whatever the next class you're doing, you are an expert.
Yeah.
But let's just say that you were charging, let's just say you're charging $25 per lesson, per person. Okay. And you're going to do this on a weekly basis. I think there's probably quite a few people, and people would have to play with, how many people do you have at $10 versus how many people do you have at 25? Figure out, it's a business. You can figure out where your price points are. Mm-hmm. But let's say over a period of 6 months, you were able to build that up to where you had 1,000 people around the United States per week watching your streaming. 1,000 people is not a lot in this business. That's not a lot. No. 1,000 people per week. That's $25,000. $25,000 per week. Let's just say it's 100 people. 100 people is nothing in this around the United States. That's 2,500 people per week, or $2,500 per week at $25. And you think you might get more if it was? You think you might get more if it was $15? Yeah, you're going to get more people at $15, right?
Post them on YouTube. Val, what's so amazing about this, out of the content that I got from and learned from, I'm recycling 3 of those segments with my own take on them, and I'm doing 3 videos on social media tips off of that stuff. I'm giving credit to where the original, the information, but I'm doing my own take on it. And it's like, what's that worth? What if you put your cooking class, posted the YouTube videos on that? You don't think you might get some more people that would go, yeah.
Yeah, we're talking, so what are some of the kinds of things that people might have experience in? How about woodworking and working with tools if you have a construction background? How about let's say you're an estimator or a project manager and you're retired. How about estimating materials for a remodel if you're a do-it-yourselfer? How about skill sets on doing different things? You could do a video. You could paint your bathroom. Do a video of it. Walk everybody through that as a side gig coaching video. Write off all your materials and everything for painting your bathroom. It's a part of a legitimate business expense. And you can go item by item through your house if you wanted to.
Yeah.
If you let's say you wanted to buy a home and flip it in this market and you had the skills to do that, you could do this, make videos of everything you're doing step by step through this house, write the whole thing off potentially as a business expense, consult with your tax person, but I'm pretty sure about this. And then you sell your house. You've got multiple layers of tax deductions and possibilities here. You can, let's say you're a quilter or you love to sew. You can do classes on those things and put out a materials list a couple of weeks before so people can go to Joann Fabrics or wherever, Ben Franklin or wherever, and get the stuff, the hobby things, crafting stuff. There's lots of people to do this. They're looking for things to do from home that are inexpensive. $15 a piece to attend this is cheaper than going to a movie or going out to dinner. Rather than going out to dinner and spending $50 or $60 at a restaurant, cook at home, attend this lesson, have a fun thing with your significant other, do this as an event or as a family. What a kind of a cool thing to do as a family. do a Sunday night deal, and here you've got this. You can even pre-record these and then sell the time and schedule it for a Sunday evening and stream it live. There's so many things you can do with this, and it excites me because it's almost endless, the possibilities of things that people either know how to do, or in the case of your grill example, pretty inexpensively be able to promote and do. I got to think there's hundreds of recipes that you could explore having to do with grills, griddles, and smokers, right?
Yep.
And none of those things are expensive as a business expense. None of them.
No.
So, I think we just opened up a world of possibilities for people if they're watching this and they're struggling financially. They're trying to figure out, and this doesn't necessarily meet the issue of, I can't make my rent this weekend or whatever. That's not what we're generally talking about. We're talking about people putting together side gigs.
Yep.
And getting this built up to the point where if you're looking to retire in a year, you can get this built up so that your side gig, it's very, very simple to do something where you're making a couple $1,000s a month on a side gig.
Which would change a lot of people, Val. I mean, like I said, and I think we have to be realistic. I mean, who's taking out Yellow Page ads now? I don't know anybody. I don't even know if it still exists, but if you can use social media platforms like we've been talking about, your possibilities are unlimited. And hey, if a couple $1,000s a month would change my life, okay, it would change a lot of people's lives to have that coming in over and above what you've got currently or your Social Security and all that. And most of it's free, Val. You can stream, you can do all this stuff free. Once you spend a little bit of money, like say less than $1,000 on equipment or whatever, you can stream, you can get on Facebook, you can get on YouTube, Instagram. They're free. Okay.
So let's talk. It is, to me, this is super exciting. You know how jazzed that you and I get about this. And sometimes it's hard for me.
60-plus-year-old guys excited about social media. I mean, come on.
Well, and excited about all the possibilities. So let's talk about the numbers of this, okay?
Yeah.
So you have an area of expertise having to do with retirement. Recently, having gone through this, you've got a consultant that you use that helps you with your investing and all these numbers. And you just threw out a statistic there, or a target of 4% per year, I believe you said, right?
Yeah.
That you need to have enough money put away or have enough income stream so that you're only drawing down about 4% per year. Now, when you think about that, that means that if you have an investment, if you've got capital, if you've got an investment account, you're only needing to get a 4% return on that after tax in order to stay level, right?
Yep.
So let's say that you were to put together in the next year, you're to put together a side gig where you're making $4,000 a month. Let's say out of that $4,000 a month, you've got about $1,000 a month in expenses that you need to meet. It can be equipment, it can be marketing costs, it can be whatever. All right. So $4,000 a month, and you've got about so you've got a net. You're going to net out of that. Let's just use the number $2,700.
Okay.
Times 12 months. We're assuming no growth. All right. That's the equivalent of adding $810,000. That's the equivalent of having an investment account with $810,000 in it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So if you're watching this today,
that's powerful,
and you are either a retiree or you're looking to set up a side hustle, a side gig, and create some extra income, we just explained to you how in the next year you can create an income stream that is the equivalent of having $810,000 in an investment account.
Yep.
Relatively safe. You're not subject really to the stock market ups and downs and whatever's happening politically. In fact, you might be able to argue that the more things get impacted politically, the better your side hustle gig does, because it's insulated, it's online, it's working to the mega trends, not against them.
Right.
And I think that that's pretty powerful to be able to sit here and talk about something and look at this and say, we just showed people how roughly to create the equivalent of having an additional $810,000 in their investment account. And it's not the asset, but it's the cash flow.
Right.
And you have every possibility of growth there. What happens then if that becomes $10,000 a month? I mean, and knowing what happens on the internet, knowing what's viral, having the ability once you're retired, especially to spend some time marketing and developing that and working a YouTube and doing some of these different things, looking at the ability, let's just play with that a little bit. Let's just say that it got to the point where that net income stream was $77,000 or $7,700 a month. Again, $10,000 a month on an internet side gig built up over a period of a couple of years. That's not a lot. If you really focus and think about what we're doing, what we're teaching here, you're talking about $92,000 a month in net income. And you're talking, that's the equivalent of 2.3. I got to expand this a little bit. See, the number got so big, I had to expand my screen. $2.3 million in an investment fund to return that at 4%, at a 4% net.
And you're working from home. I guess you're going to be happier. You don't have the commute. You don't have all the hassle, clothes for work, all that other type of stuff. You're doing it from home. So
let me ask you another question. That Blackstone grill, is that like portable? Yeah, that's not hardwired into your house, is it?
No, this is pretty heavy, but could you move it? Yep.
Do they have any of those that you could put on an RV, maybe on the back of an RV or something like that? Or
I think with the right platform, I don't know, all that stuff, you could probably do that. I mean,
I'm just saying, I know that there's RVs that have grills, griddles, and barbecues because I see them all the time.
Trailer, put it on a small trailer. Yeah, you could do it.
Well, sure. There you go. You can do. There's ways you could probably do this. So you could literally. You could literally take this on the road and develop a class that's in different locations every month and explore the tastes and the flavors from that location and potentially be able to write this off.
Yeah, I'm on the Grand Canyon. I got my Blackstone griddle here. We're going to be doing whatever, and I'm cooking something up there. Yeah, I mean, the possibilities are unlimited. You go, cooking in all 50 states, pick a picturesque location, and boom, there you go. Upload it. You just need your phone or something. It's all something you could have in your RV without much at all, and boom, where's he going next? Oh, he's going to this state. Where are they going to go do it from? There's a whole bunch of crazies. Now, Val, you're going to get me into shooting videos here in the fog, cooking on my Blackstone griddle. I didn't this morning, but been doing. I got the omelets down on that. It works nice. So
I could see Brad's new channel right now. It's writing off your lifestyle, breakfast, lunch, and dinner with Brad Kranz.
I'm pretty much the de facto chef now because we're cooking almost everything on our griddle. Joni doesn't have to cook anymore. I'm the guy because I'm like, hey, we got a griddle. Let's throw it on the griddle. Let's cook it up. And it's great. It's easy. It's easy. I've run through 2 tanks of gas in the last 3 months. About 1 a month now, probably slowing down with fall and winter coming, but heck.
That just sounds like another write-off to me. I mean, I'm excited about helping people stimulate their creative juices. Yeah, I'm excited about looking at the positive side of things, and rather than being home and frustrated and scared about the future, think about how bright your future can be just by taking advantage of some of these things. And you don't have to have any money to start these things. It's literally almost everybody has the basic tools. I mean, if you're on social media at all, you have the basic tool to be able to start. You might not have a studio and everything set up like Brad and I have, but I didn't start that way either. I started with a phone sitting out under a tree in my yard.
Yep.
I started with a phone going to the beach right down here in Seattle, Alki Beach, sitting on the beach doing videos about watching volleyball contests in the summertime on the beach.
Yeah.
That's how I got started, to the point where today my wife and I have a house studio. We've got three rooms in our house that are studios or office situations. Wow. And so these things grow and they get built up. And
you can take it back, Val. If you're on Instagram, you can only use your phone, but you can make money on Instagram. So I mean, you could do all this stuff I put my longer videos on IGTV, just learned about that. But you could do it simply with a phone and on an Instagram account, man. I mean,
I gotta tell a story. Can I tell a Brad Krantz story?
Yeah. Okay.
Brad, was it 18 months ago? You sat here, you and Joni, I think, sat here in our home, and you asked me, now, how do you spell social media? I mean, it was almost right. Was it? Maybe was it 18?
It was in May of last year, man. Yeah, it was May of last year.
Ems had just got here. Ems had just got here from the Philippines, and you were a green newbie.
Yep.
And you're literally sitting here trying to say, now how does that camera work? And how do we do this? How do you use that program to edit videos and things like that? So you can literally go in 18 months from knowing how to get on Facebook and how to talk a little bit. You can go from that to attracting people from all over the world to your platforms on your subject matter. And Brad is a retired business guy with a background in corporate sales.
Yep.
This is the type of, Brad, you are the poster child for how to do this with coming out of a corporate career that didn't end up like you wanted. The company was frustrated. You hated your job. You hated driving all over the city in traffic all day long. And now you work from home, you're retired, and you are a subject matter expert with people from all over the world searching you out. And I just got to say, thumbs up to Brad and Joni.
Well, thank you, Val. I think somebody really, because I listen to a lot of Gary Vaynerchuk, because the guy gets social media. That's what I do. But it's basically taking these ideas. You have to put them to use. When he started talking about Instagram. One of the people in the Jeunesse 2020 Expo was talking about. I said, okay, I'm going to jump on it. Similar to TikTok, but if you just jump on it, and somebody yesterday said, hey, yeah, your photo is sideways. I go, well, just turn your screen sideways. It'll be okay. I don't care. I don't have it all dialed down, but I'm going to do it. And I'm going to figure out the details later. But it's just really being willing to do it. It's not that hard. I actually like doing videos. Tell you my secret to my photo on one of my videos, my thumbnails on a YouTube. I was standing at our counter with my jacket on and shirt. I just had shorts on behind that. Underwear. I didn't have pants on. My wife's going, you need to put pants on. No, nobody's going to see it. And that's what says. That's why you were smiling and go, yeah, you couldn't tell because I got the counter here. But so you do what you
know. That is a funny truth, because with the whole work from home thing now, they're selling all kinds of coats and shirts and ties, and they're not selling any pants because everybody's sitting around in their underwear and their shorts.
You don't know what I got on, but I got a T-shirt on. It is funny because we watch people on TV doing it, and they show like doctors and all this, and they get up, they got their pajama pants on. So yeah, you
just have to be a little careful if you're a bozo like me, because Ems works a lot at night. You and I talk about it's not unusual for her to go to bed finally at 1 to 4 o'clock in the morning because she's doing a lot of international stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's totally cool. In fact, sometimes she's sitting in bed. She does so much from her phone. It's amazing to watch how much somebody can do from an Android phone, for instance. But she's doing this. She's sitting in bed doing this stuff. Anyway, so she gets up later in the morning than I do, right? So she comes down 3 days ago. She comes down and she looks at me and she says, "Your shirt's inside out." And I look down, and of course I'm seeing the seams here, right? So I got up early in the morning. It was getting kind of dark here in the morning now. And I just threw my shirt on and I go downstairs, and I was probably in some kind of Zoom meetings and something, right? And somebody's thinking, what a Goomba this is. He's got his shirt inside out. So you can be sitting there in your Fruit of the Looms. You just got to make sure your shirt's on the right side out, right? I guess that's
I've had
kind of
pants on inside out. My daughter goes, "Dad, how come you got your pants on backwards?" I'm like, it was dark when I put them on. I couldn't tell. So it didn't feel too weird. So I'm okay with it.
The old joke used to be, you had two different colors of socks, and I just reached in the door and grabbed them. Now it's, did you know you got your pants on backwards? Anyway,
I got my shirt on. It's on the right. You can see the Carhartt, so you know it's on the right way. So I'm good to go.
There you go. Well, a lot of mine are just T-shirts, and so unless it's got a pocket or something, I miss it.
You don't know what side you got it on. You're good to go.
Well, that's the subject of. Excuse me. That's the subject of side gigs and side hustles and retirees. But really, I think it extends over into just about everybody. You could be a stay-at-home mom. You could be a retiree. You could be somebody who's 40 years old and has a great career, but just wants to put a lot more money in their retirement fund and wants insurance. I think this is a fantastic time in history where people have all of these opportunities to create income insurance.
Yep.
And people aren't doing it. And I am shocked at that. Why are people not taking advantage of this? It's fun. It's not difficult. There's plenty of places to learn it for free. And you've got people like you and I and others who are coaching people to do this stuff. And why are the 40-year-old professional people not doing this, given the fact that they look around them and see that in the last 30 years, employment has become extremely fragile. People who thought they had locked down jobs are suddenly unemployed. I literally know, I have a friend who is 50 years old, 45-ish. No, she's not 50. Who was a solid career mid-level management person with one of the most successful companies in the country, who found herself let go. I cannot imagine, I can't disclose specifics. I'm just letting you know, I can't imagine anybody who would have thought they were in a more secure position. But that company made a decision to completely shift their business model in light of what they see as future demographics.
Yep.
And 100-year-old company flipped a switch and completely went a different direction, and she was on the outside. And now for her, she got a parachute. She's decided just to take some time off. She's been working hard for decades. She says, I'm just going to take some time off, spend some time with my family, and then I'll go back and do consulting or something. Because she knows it's going to be hard for her to get back out into the marketplace and compete as an employee. So she's going to do consulting. That's a side gig, folks. That's taking all of those decades of skill sets, and an employer doesn't really want to bring you in because they're more interested, as they're rebranding, in bringing in people who are 25. And one of the reasons for that is you can manipulate and pressure somebody that's 25 a lot more than you can somebody that's 45. Yeah. And don't you for a minute think that companies don't know that.
No. Val, let's do this. We should probably close out, but why don't we get in, since we're started the topic on side gigs, let's talk more about what we do, because I'm getting more jacked about it. It's a real deal. I know some people still think it's not real, but let's talk about what we do next week. What do you think?
Either that, or if you want, we could take a few minutes now. I don't know. Do you have someplace else you got to go real fast?
Well, I do have stuff I've got to get ready. We got a birthday party coming up, so I've got to get on some stuff here.
Okay.
But I thought maybe let's talk a little bit more about it. We'll check in the
let's spend and here we are. We're talking on the side here, but again, side gigs, right? We got so much flexibility and things we can do. We can actually even take a 15-minute piece or a 20-minute piece and develop that specifically. And that's kind of what I did here in this segment. I'll probably end up taking this video and splitting this up into a couple of different pieces. So we ran long, but we didn't get into the actual subject matter until almost 8:30. So we've only we'll have a 45-minute segment on that. So guys, I hope, people who are still listening, and I hope everybody took some inspiration from this. I hope everybody's thinking about what things do I know? What would I like to do? What's fun? What are some fun things to do? Because if you think it's fun, other people are going to think it's fun. And if you've got any questions about this, if you have you want to do some brainstorming to try and figure out what you can do that's fun, that you can market, get a hold of me. Get a hold of Brad or I. We are happy to go through this with you. We are literally experts at doing fun things and making money. Okay.
Yeah. What's your passion, man? There's opportunity out there. This America is the land of opportunity. Find your passion. Find what I talked about this my 60 seconds yesterday. What drives you? What motivates you? Turn that into a income, a side gig.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We love you all. Have a fantastic weekend.
Talk to you soon. All right. See you, Val. Bye-bye.